following is an excerpt of a recent Mort Radio broadcast. And before we close up shop for the night, I wanted to take the last few minutes that we are on and talk about George A. Romero. As many of you already know, Mr. Romero died earlier today, or at least we found out that he died earlier today, after battling lung cancer. Mr. Romero is famous for, of course, the film Night of the Living Dead, and already many people are paying their tributes or have paid tribute to him, showing their respect and talking about how he influenced, or his film influenced, their lives. And I guess I'm going to be no different here, because it is very true. Night of the Living Dead, the film, did change my life. And I guess this is my way of paying tribute to George A. Romero as well. I first saw the film in the early 70s with my dad. And I was just a young boy, a little boy, and obviously it scared the shit out of me. I was just horrified watching the film. There we were, sitting in the theater with me with this big, huge bucket of greasy popcorn and a big, huge root beer soda. And my dad and I were just sitting there watching the film and I was just horrified watching the film. I was so scared and so transfixed on it. I thought it was the greatest thing I had ever seen because it scared me so much. And then afterwards, every time that Night of the Living Dead played on the local television stations during the horror shows, the creature features, my dad and I would get together in front of the television with our big, huge bowl of popcorn and soda and watch the film over and over again. And my dad was a big fan of Harry Cooper. He thought Harry Cooper was a blast. He was always like, that sneaky son of a bitch. He's going to find out. Watch what he does here. Watch what he does here. Look at that sneaky son of a bitch. He just loved Harry Cooper in that film. But I digress. It's just that every time it was on television afterwards, we would watch it. And then when VHS came into being, when it was first people were renting VHS tapes, the very first VHS tape I rented was, of course, Night of the Living Dead. And then when I owned my own VHS cassette recorder player, I inquired about buying the movie because I thought, oh, how great to own Night of the Living Dead. But at that time, believe it or not, it's true. At that time, Night of the Living Dead cost $90, $100 to have on a VHS cassette. So I did like any true-blooded American would do. I bootlegged it. And so the FBI can arrest me if they want to. Yes, I bootlegged the film Night of the Living Dead. But boy, I finally had the film and I could watch it whenever I wanted to. And I'm telling you, it was the greatest thing in the world. And eventually it became more commonplace, and you could buy it for cheaper and cheaper. And when it finally was like $10 to buy it, I bought a professionally made copy of it and saw there was very little difference, but at least now I had two copies. And then when they colorized the film, guess what? That's right, I bought it as well. So needless to say, I was a big fan of the film Night of the Living Dead, as well as all the other Romero films, whether it was Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead, and The Crazies, Martin, so on and so forth. But the one that always stuck with me as my favorite film of all times, my personal favorite, over all other films, Citizen Kane, Gone with the Wind, was Night of the Living Dead. After I left high school, I actually attempted to make my own zombie film with a friend of mine. We had a budget of like $1,000 or $2,000, and Obviously, it didn't come out too well, but we made it anyway, showed it to a few local, theater groups, and then kind of put the film away and never heard of it again. And through the years, I continued watching on and off Night of the Living Dead. Whenever it was late night, I couldn't sleep, and I wanted to revisit memories. When my father died, the night he died, I watched Night of the Living Dead because it was a film that brought back a lot of memories for my father and I. And then years later, when I finished college and I entered the mortuary science program, they had their day of orientation where you were going to introduce yourself to everyone around you and to the teachers and why you were entering the mortuary science program. And so they went to everyone one by one, and as you can pretty much expect, most of the students were saying things like, well, I want to become a mortician because I want to help families, or I want to become a mortician because I've always been interested in, chemistry and science, or in anatomy or biology, so on and so forth. And then they came up to me and asked me why I was entering the mortuary science program, why I was wanting to be a mortician. And I was very blunt, very honest about it. I said I had seen the film Night of the Living Dead, and it made me interested in what happens to people when they die. And that's the reason why I ended up in the mortuary science program and why I was becoming a mortician, because I watched a film called Night of the Living Dead, and it changed my life. Needless to say, that didn't go over too well. But they still let me stay in the program, and here I am today, decades later, still a mortician. Yeah, so many years later now, I still watch Night of the Living Dead. I think I watched it just a couple months ago. And I either watch it on one of the DVDs I have of it. And yeah, I have more than one, believe it or not. I don't know why, but I do. Or when I'm sitting at the computer and it's, again, late at night and I'm wanting to relax and so make myself tired so I can go to bed, I'll watch it on YouTube, because there's plenty of versions of Night of the Living Dead on YouTube these days. Years ago, I was told I was going to have to pay someone $100 to get the film on VHS tape, but now you can just watch it on YouTube for free, and I guess that's a good thing, because that way more people can see the film. So, yeah, George A. Romero is dead, and we all go down that road, but it's still sad to hear. And I hope his travels along the way till his final destination wasn't too painful. I hope he went peacefully. Yeah, Night of the Living Dead. Even after all these years, even after all these decades that have passed, it's still a great film. It is to me, and I think it is to a lot of people. So, I don't know if Mr. Romero can hear me, but if he can, I want to tell you this much, Mr. Romero, that many years ago, a little boy and his father went to see your film, and it was a great father and son moment that I'll never forget, and made me love my father more and more. And your movie, Night of the Living Dead, scared the hell out of me. Scared the hell out of a little boy. And that film changed his life forever. And I just wanted to thank you for that.